that Assassin's Creed Valhalla is just a copy-paste of Odyssey.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla is Ubisoft blatantly telling old AC fans to Valhalla these nuts.
The original Assassin's Creed game was a pioneer in the open world genre, introducing things we had never seen before in 2007, and setting trends for the future to come. But as of now in 2022, there seems like there's no hope for the franchise. It has gone from a franchise beloved by many to a lump barely resembling its former self. Staples of the series now feel more like buzzwords Ubisoft decides to use in the trailers in order to get fans to buy their microtransaction-ridden RPGs going under the Assassin's Creed name. Taking inspiration from Prince of Persia's parkour system and placing it in a gritty realistic open world, 2007's Assassin's Creed sure was a game. Going by today's standards, I wouldn't exactly consider it incredible, with common complaints about repetitive gameplay and this guy, but back in 2007, it was generally agreed upon that Assassin's Creed was by all means pretty good. Good enough to even warrant a sequel. Assassin's Creed 2 first graced our humble screens in 2009, almost exactly 2 years after the first game, and was almost instantly considered a classic. It took what worked for the first game, removed all the boring unnecessary fluff, and improved upon what could be better. And the result was a textbook example of how to make a great sequel to an already good game. This was the point when Assassin's Creed blew up and became a franchise most people respected in the gaming sphere. This in turn led to other developers and publishers seeing Assassin's Creed's success, which in sequence would lead to them implementing Ubisoft's ideas into their own games. Suddenly, things such as the Ubisoft Tower, third-person parkour, eagle vision, and trailing missions was something you saw implemented into a lot of open-world games. Sometimes in fun and creative ways that made the games better, but other times it seemed like they just did it because they saw what worked for others and thought doing the same would lead to similar success.
Ironic.
Moving on from Assassin's Creed 2, AC Brotherhood did sell a bit less than the others, but from my personal standpoint, it's an absolutely stellar game deserving of way more than it ultimately got. All you need to know is that it moved the franchise forward while still staying true to its roots. Ubisoft would keep this up with the following Assassin's Creed games, continuing the story, abiding to what made the other games good, and experimenting with new interesting ideas. By this point I've mentioned being true to Assassin's Creed a couple of times, but what do I actually mean when I'm saying that? What separates an Assassin's Creed game from a game that just so happens to have a hidden blade? Well, what if I told you that Ubisoft themselves answered this very question at GDC on Assassin's Creed's 10-year anniversary? Creative director Jean
Guédon
talks about several interesting things regarding the history of Assassin's Creed, and he mentions that Assassin's Creed 1 was developed as a next-gen Prince of Persia game, and that it was upon seeing the success of Assassin's Creed 2 that Ubisoft decided that they wanted to maintain the yearly releases and expand the franchise to other media. They wanted the franchise to grow into a brand, such as many other multi-movie universes. In order for this to happen, several development teams would have to work together, which could cause inconsistencies. So in order to prevent this and distinguish what made Assassin's Creed, they established the 10 Commandments, a set of guidelines laying out the basic fundamental rules of the series. Upon examining the earlier games, they mostly followed these rules faithfully. There might have been some bending of the rules here and there, but overall this was Assassin's Creed. Although don't get me wrong, these games did differ from each other a great deal, but abiding by the 10 Commandments, these games had a clear feel and connection between each other. Now that we know what makes an Assassin's Creed game, let's get to the fun part, looking at the recent games in the franchise and examining the commandments. The problems quickly become pretty obvious. Let's take a look at the most recent game as of me recording this, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. With assistance from this Reddit post happening to discuss the very same thing, we both seem to agree that Valhalla bends one rule while breaking 6 of them. This could be considered sacrilegious in its own right, but I think most of us would be willing to accept this if the game was actually good, making the sacrifices of breaking the commandments worth it. Right, Ubisoft? Right?
Take the wheel! Look at you! You're fucking pathetic!
What?
Usually I would be scared that a bunch of angry gamers would be rushing to dislike the video, but I'm pretty sure most of us are still busy finishing the story. My personal opinion is that the game is just, actually I don't feel like giving an in-depth review. Story, made gameplay, made characters, don't care. Side activities, don't care. The map is good though. I think we all know that Britain isn't supposed to look this good. Good job, devs. Also, something that I have to mention is that the music has always been a highlight of these games. From the first game to the latest releases, the music has always been nothing short of incredible. But from my point of view, the pros do not outweigh the cons. The game is just one long, big meh. And this is only further accentuated by the absolutely girthy length of the game. To drive my point home, let's also take a look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I will source the same Reddit post as earlier, as the guy is a literal shad. And according to his and my analysis, Assassin's Creed Odyssey breaks 8 of the 10 commandments of Assassin's Creed. This game is barely recognizable as an Assassin's Creed game anymore. The only commandments that the game doesn't break is number 8 and 9, which just so happens to be the easiest not to break. But, same as before, does the game justify breaking these rules by making the game any good? Well, I guess. I mean, it's not horrible for those of you who are wondering. If you're interested in the period this game is set in, then
Hello there.
as a game, it manages to stand its own ground, but if you're looking for an Assassin's Creed game, then I'd suggest looking somewhere else. The qualities that make an Assassin's Creed game are not here, thus making this feel more like an historical RPG than the image of Assassin's Creed we've all grown to love. Rounding this juicy video off, I'd like to clarify that I do not hate or even dislike Assassin's Creed. Quite the opposite, in fact. I absolutely adore the franchise. I remember Assassin's Creed 2 being the first game I ever played from beginning to end. And I've played Brotherhood so many times that I know the map better than the town I live in. The critique I'm giving is truly coming from a place of love and the desire to see Ubisoft do better. What the future holds for Assassin's Creed is uncertain. As of recording this, the next game is set to be Assassin's Creed Infinity, and it's supposed to be a live service Assassin's Creed game. The reception so far seems pretty mixed, with some people being really excited about it, and some people waiting to see Ubisoft's next move. Personally, I don't really like where this is going. The AC games have grown more and more monetizable, with Ubisoft implementing more and more microtransactions. And to me, this just seems like an even more lucrative way for Ubisoft to make money. Is there hope for Assassin's Creed? Honestly, I don't know, but I guess it's better to have faith in something than not at all.
22 years ago, I stood where I stand now and watched my loved ones die, betrayed by those I had called friends. Vengeance clouded my mind. It would have consumed me, were it not for the wisdom of a few strangers who taught me to look past my instincts. They never preached answers, but guided me to learn from myself. We don't need anyone to tell us what to do. Not Savonarola, not the Medici. We are free to follow our own path. There are those who will take that freedom from us. Too many of you gladly give it. But it is our ability to choose whatever you think is true that makes us human. There is no book or teacher to give you the answers, to show you the path. Choose your own way. Do not follow me or anyone else.